All right, so today we are going to be talking about volume of a prism. So these are the two shapes that we're going to be looking at today. These are going to be a little bit different than the volume problems that we did before spring break. Remember, we already talked about volume of a cone, volume of a cylinder, volume of a sphere. These are going to be a little bit different. We are going to be using the same formulas, the same volume formulas, but the process is going to be a little bit different. We have to kind of shift our mindset. So let's go ahead and we're going to start by writing out the formula. So we're still going to be using our formula chart that looks like this. So let's talk about first volume of a prism. Okay, so we are still going to be using this formula like we did before spring break. Remember, we talked about the capital B stands for area of the base, and the H stands for the height of the 3D shape, or the distance between the two bases. Remember, we talked about that before. So we are going to go ahead and write out this formula, and then we're going to make ourselves a couple of notes. So volume of a prism, volume equals capital B times H. So remember that capital B is area of the base, H is the height of the 3D shape, the distance between the two bases. Okay, so these are both prisms, okay? These are both prisms. So a prism is a 3D shape that has two bases. That's all we need to know, okay? A prism is a 3D shape that has two bases. So here's an example of this shape. Here's an example of this shape, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and write up here, prisms have two bases. Okay, so prisms have two bases, so we are going to go ahead and look at this first shape right here. This is called a rectangular prism because all of the faces are rectangles. So we're going to label this rectangular prism. Okay. All of the faces are rectangles. So in a rectangular prism, all of the faces are rectangles. We are going to call the top rectangle and the bottom rectangle our bases. So here's the bottom rectangle, here's the top rectangle. Okay, so those are the bases. So when we are going to be finding the volume, I always want you to first kind of think about, if you don't have a physical paper, think about what the bases would be. If you do have a physical paper, I want you to go ahead and shade it in like I did. But what you want to do is you want to identify which faces are the bases. So these two rectangles on the top and the bottom are the bases. And I always want you to draw what the base is going to look like apart from the 3D shape. This is going to help us visually. We want to see what it looks like apart from the 3D shape. So we're going to draw what the base would look like, and we're going to label the parts. Okay, so this length right here is 14 centimeters. So this right here is 14 centimeters. This length right here is 2.5 centimeters. So we're going to label that. Okay, how do we find area of a rectangle? Because remember, our goal is to find the area of the base. Here's the base. We want to find the area of this rectangle, and we want to find the height. Okay, and then we're going to multiply those numbers. So how do we find the area of a rectangle? We're going to do length times width, side times side. So we're going to do 2.5 times 14. And that gives us 35. And so we're finding area of the base, so that's 35 centimeters squared. So that's capital B. Okay, so we know that capital B is 35 centimeters squared, so we've solved for this part of the equation. So now we need to know what is the height of the 3D shape. So remember, the height is the distance between the two bases. So if we have a base on the top, base on the bottom, the distance between the two bases is going to be this length right here. So as you can see, this length right here is how tall our 3D shape is. So this 1 centimeters is our height. So if we write out our formula down here, capital B times H, we're going to be multiplying capital B 35 times H, which is 1, and that gives us 35 centimeters cubed. That is our volume. All right, so for a rectangular prism, the bases are the top and the bottom. Draw what the base looks like apart from the 3D shape, label the sides, solve for capital B, solve for H, and multiply. Okay, so over here, this prism is very similar, but the difference is, okay, these faces are not all rectangles. Some of them are. This one's a rectangle, this one's a rectangle, and this one on the bottom is a rectangle. But we now have 2 faces that are triangles. Okay, if we go back to talking about what a prism is, we said a prism has 2 bases, so we have to look at what does this shape have 2 of? It has 2 triangles. So those are actually our bases. The triangles are the bases. Even though this shape is sitting on a rectangle, it doesn't matter, the triangles are the bases. So the triangles here, we're going to shade the triangles. Those are the bases. Okay, so over here, the bases were rectangles, so we called it a rectangular prism. Over here, the bases are triangles, so we call this shape a triangular prism. Okay, so whenever you have a triangular prism, we know triangles are the bases, so we want to draw the base separately from the 3D shape, and we want to label the parts so we can look at what the base looks like. So looking at this triangle, so 3 centimeters is along the bottom, okay? And this base has a dotted line that goes from the bottom to the top, and that dotted line is 2 centimeters. I'm just gonna write 2 because I don't have room for centimeters. So this is a triangle. The base is a triangle. A triangle has a base and a height. So it can be kind of confusing to think about, well, the triangle has a base and a height, and in the formula we have a capital B and an H. So we need to make sure we're deciphering between what is the height of the 3D shape, what is the height of the base. So if we want to find capital B, again, our goal is to find out what is area of the base. So we want to find out what is the area of this triangle. If you remember how to find area of a triangle, right here, area of a triangle. To find area of a triangle, we do base times height divided by 2. So when we're finding capital B, we need to use this triangle and do base of the triangle, height of the triangle, divided by 2. So the base of the triangle is 3 centimeters. So this is all just to find capital B. Then we'll go back and find H, the height of the 3D shape. But for right now, for capital B, area of the base, we're gonna do the base of the triangle times the height of the triangle, which is 2, multiply 3 times 2, and then divide by 2 for area of a triangle. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So the area of the base is 3 centimeters squared. Area of the base is 3 centimeters squared. Okay, so we've solved for capital B. Now let's think about the H, the height of the 3D shape. The height of the 3D shape is the distance between the 2 bases. This 10 is the distance between the 2 bases. If you were to look at your shape where it's sitting on the base, then you can tell, okay, this is how tall it is. So 10 centimeters is the height. So let's write out our formula, capital B times H. Capital B was 3 centimeters squared. The height of the prism is 10 centimeters. 3 times 10 is 30. 30 centimeters cubed is the volume.